Okay, now I would like to show game 15 of a match from 1954 between Botvinnik and Smyslov. So in that match Botvinnik was able to retain the title not because he won, but because he achieved a 12 to 12, which for the rules of the time it was enough for the world champion to keep his title. Smyslov in this game played on April 17, 1954 was white and Botvinnik was black. E4, C5, knight B1, C3. Once again, the close variation. Smyslov had evidently come to the conclusion that the system with 5b6 is not sufficient for equality, and quite rightly so. However, a surprise awaited him. So, obviously, Botvinnik was ready. Knight c6, g3, g6, bishop f1, g2, bishop f8, g7, d3, and d6 instead of b6. Black prepares to implement a different plan. Knight g1, e2. Spassky, during his World Championship campaign, successfully played both knight h3 or f4. The latter move was also played by Smyslov, but the most important place in his repertoire was taken by the move bishop e3. So instead of knight g1, e2, he started to play bishop e3. The text move is to some extent a step backwards from this. Okay. And now we have a totally different move on move 6. Can you guess what black played, what Botvinnik played? He played e5. And he said, now the bishop on g2 is shut in. The advance d3, d4 becomes hard to achieve. Yeah, because it's kind of very well controlled, right? And the advance f2, f4 can be met by f7, f5. As far as the weakness of d5 is concerned, it is not of great significance, since white can now only occupy it with two knights, whilst black can defend it with two knights and a bishop. So 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2. So he will not be able to keep it as an outpost. In the end, he will have a pawn there that is still blocking the light square bishop. Okay. On the basis of the above, one can conclude that black's opening difficulties are already behind him. One need only add that the analogous plan with colors reverse had already been seen in practice and in the English opening, and in particular had been successfully used by Nintsovich. Okay, why Botvinnik speak of English opening? Because the English opening is a reverse of the Sicilian when you play c4 and e5. And so many of these plans, many of this pawn structure are just reverse, color reverse of the Sicilian, okay? So that's kind of very interesting. So the English opening can be quite sharp if you play c4, e5. Okay. Let's see. Knight c3, d5. As already pointed out, this only leads to simplification. In the event of 7 castle, he would have played knight g, e7, f4, castle, and then played f5. Okay, knight c3, d5. He plays now this interesting move, knight g8, e7. He doesn't, he's not afraid of bishop g5 because he says that he will play h6, and when white plays bishop f6, he plays castle. Okay, I don't know. Okay, let's see. After knight g8, e7, white played c3. This is interesting, you see, because he's trying to take away d4. And let's see. The prime cause of all white's subsequent woes. Now black is relieved of the only minus of his position, the weakness of d5. Furthermore, the advanced d3, d4 loses its strength, since it's now impossible to open the d-file. He should either have exchange on e7, or defended the knight on d5 with its colleague on e2, or finally, as recommended in Echo, that is the encyclopedia of chess opening, retreated the knight to e3. So that was the maneuver, to go back here for him. Okay. Knight e7 takes d5, e4 takes d5, knight c6, e7, and now castle. And instead of castle, we show a variation on d4, which in the end becomes good because the bishop becomes really free. So it seems that what he had to play. Castle. So we see that there is a big difference with the previous opening in which he kept the king in the center throughout all the game. And now white plays f4. Even so, now white should venture to the advance of d4. After the pseudo-active move in the game, white ends up in a difficult position. The pawn on f4 will limit the activity of the bishop on c1 and the knight on e2. The white king's position is also weakened and may become serious. As for the exchange, the white king's position is weakened because now the diagonal is real, and this is still real. We don't know where it goes. I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's what he means, okay? Okay, so the white king's position is also weakened and may become serious. As for the exchange, f4 takes e5, it is clearly not in white's favor. Whilst black can exchange pawns on f4, at whatever moment he finds convenient, white play is consequently tied down by this, in that he must constantly be ready for this exchange. Okay, so bishop c8, d7, and now the threat was probably this, and to go here, okay? So that was the thing. h3, queen d8, c7, bishop c1, e3. White transfer the bishop to the square f2, so this is the maneuver, where it seems that it will defend the king better, but in the process the diagonal c1, h6 is weakened, which black soon exploits. More cautious was bishop d2, so instead of bishop e3 he should have played bishop e2. Okay, d2. Rook a8, e8, queen d1, d2. The queen will turn out to be badly placed on this diagonal, so it would have been better to complete the intended transfer of the bishop to f2. Knight e7, f5, bishop e3, f2, h5, and rook a1, e1. There is no time for such moves. Whilst it was still not too late, he should have increased the scope of his pieces by means of g4. So instead of this, he should have played this, and here he gives a line, okay? But like always, there is no diagram for returning back to the position. Queen c7, d8, and also here he gives a line. king g1 h2, bishop g7 h6. Wow. In fact, now the queen is kind of badly placed. And here Botvinnik says, the storm clouds are gathering over the white king. Once again, white cannot play g4. Because, and here luckily there is a diagram, so I can show you the line, because I know how to return back. This is, you see, this is the reason why you put diagrams, because if you put a diagram, I can return back to that position. If you don't, I have to restart the game. I might try to remember the position, and then if I forget something, I play from a different position, which is not a good idea, and is a thing that happened, because this is a thing which actually happened to many people in games, that they were thinking that they actually remember their right position. Everybody thinks to be correct up to the moment they are not. Okay, so after g4, he says this move cannot be played because of the following line. H takes g4, h takes g4, knight h4, g5, cutting and attacking, knight takes g2, king takes g2, e takes f4. Wow, this is very interesting. G takes h6, queen g5, king h2, queen takes h6, king g1, queen g5, king h2, and king g7. Now, I don't know if you notice, from move 18 up to here, it's move 25. So I think he actually calculated those 7 moves. So it's kind of long, but it's something that he had to visualize precisely. Okay, visualize precisely. Which means that it couldn't be done in Blitz, but it had to be done in this long time control that they had in the time. Okay, now I will pause the video and bring the position back to what it was. Okay, I think I put the position back to what it was. So Botvinnik just explained to us why white cannot play g4 and show us a line in which practically gives checkmate. What does white do now, right? Because clearly there is an attack on the king's side. White played h4 and black played queen f6. The decisive move, although it breaks one of the normal rules of attack, do not place the queen in front of the minor pieces, the black queen appears to be dangerously placed, but white cannot exploit this. White now has no satisfactory defense to the threat of e takes f4, knight takes f4, knight takes h4. Okay? And so there is this line that he gives to prove it. Okay? So bishop e4, e takes f4, knight e2 takes f4, knight f5 takes h4, bishop f2 goes to e3, and knight h4 goes to f5. And then we have bishop e4 takes f5. The thematic variation in which black's main idea is bound up is as follows. Again, here he gives a variation that is 5-6 moves long, and like always, he didn't put a diagram after this. I don't understand why, honestly. But again, I'm just reviewing the book. I'm telling you what I would like to find as a reader. Maybe you don't care, because maybe you watch the game on a computer, so automatically you go back to the real position. But if you watch it over the board, I don't know. Because then, do you need a book on paper If you watch it on a computer, no, because you could have a book on the computer itself, right? So queen f6 takes f5. Here the black queen can be embarrassed by knight e6, but after bishop takes e3, queen takes e3, and queen takes d5, white's position is hopeless. Okay, so that's why you cannot play, he says. Black now has only a minimal material advantage of one pawn, but his positional superiority has grown sharply. Okay. Queen d2, g2. Queen f5, g4. Queen g2, e2. Otherwise there would follow h4. But in the end, white cannot avoid this battering ram anyway. And now we see the end of the game, because we are just at move 24, okay? Queen takes e2, rook e1 takes e2, rook e8 e5, rook e2 e1, rook f8 e8, bishop e3 f2, h4. Now black obtains two connected pass pawn. Rook e1 takes e5, rook e8 takes e5, d3, d4, h4 takes g3, king h2 takes g3, rook e5, g5 check, king g3 h2, rook g5 f5, bishop e2 f2 e3. Black cannot win a piece now, since on g5 there would be the reply rook g1, and so that kind of pin, okay? But with the next move, black creates just this threat. C takes d4, C takes d4, king g8, h7, rook f1, f2, g5, knight e4, f4, e2, rook f5 takes f2, bishop e3 takes f2, and f7, f5, and white resign. One of the decisive games of a match. The score by now is Botvinnik 8, Smyslov 7. I hope you enjoyed this second game from the book Botvinnik Smyslov, all the 3 World Chess Championship matches, and I think it's an interesting read just to be aware of what happened in that period. So if you want to enjoy chess history of the World Championship, this is definitely your book. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe.